everybody. My name is Ariadne, and I would like to welcome you to the Evolutionary Healer Virtual Summit and Book Launch. Today, I am interviewing Jaden Fox. Jaden Fox is one of those fearless explorers who enjoys going where others dare not look. He's learned that our power and magic are being deliberately hidden from us by energies that are afraid of humanity's awakening and becoming conscious. He aims to change this. His play is empowering people to find themselves by clearing the illusions, distortions, and limitations this reality has imposed, while fostering expansive awareness of truth, infinite magnitude of our authentic being and body. He's continuously uncovering new ways to reconnect people to their power and magic so they can be the change they came here to be. Jaden is an international presenter and facilitator of tools for awakening consciousness. He uses his wit, humor, and authentic expression to awaken and inspire other wayshowers to untangle limitation and connect to their inner clarity so they can step into what they came here to be and do now. He reconnects people to their bodies, their potency, and their playful magic while taking audiences beyond this matrix illusion and into their true magnitude beyond this universe. Anyone ready to shed old patterns and viewpoints can be assured of going to expansive, fun, and exciting places they have only imagined were possible. So great to have you with us, Jaden.
Thank you.
Welcome to the summit.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so you do things that are completely different than what traditional healers end up doing. Why is that, and what has inspired you to move into that realm?
I think I recognized that in my process of becoming aware, I kept hitting these walls that were the typical structures, the new age structures, the healing structures and paradigms that were on this planet. And I found that those were the barriers that were blocking me. And when I started to dismantle those, what I found behind them is this layer of interference, this energetic interference that many people just don't talk about. They kind of pretend it's not there. And once I started to clear that, all of a sudden big space opened up and big awareness opened up, and I was able to step into my potency, and my magic started to just naturally come forth. It was like I recognized that so much of what was going on for me was not me screwing up my life, but it was interference messing with me to try to keep me down and keep me small. And so while most other people are like, oh, let's join hands and sing Kumbaya with all these energies on the planet, I'm like, no, there's stuff that doesn't belong here. Out, vanish. So I have a different viewpoint about the balance or dynamics of what's going on here.
Right. So do you think that people are choosing to be unaware of it, or unconscious of it completely, or a combination of both?
We as a culture have been programmed to be unaware of it. We've been programmed to not see it. You know, it's like ghosts are invisible. Like, who told you that? Like, as kids, you can see stuff. And then as adults, we like can't see it anymore. There's all these layers of conditioning that we're not allowed to see evil. Don't look at evil, don't hear evil, don't talk to evil, don't see. Like, there's all this programming to not notice this stuff. And so we've just been programmed.
And you mentioned the New Age movement and Kumbaya. Is that kind of like a mini matrix within the matrix that is even more deceptive than the original matrix?
Yeah, it's like it's another offshoot of the players that are playing games here. There's the religious players, and the New Age is a rebranding of old-time religion with very sophisticated traps in it that have very sophisticated languaging that actually take you into synthetic realities that are outside of this realm and disconnect you from your body, and then all kinds of weird stuff starts to happen.
Yeah, and there's so many people that are trapped in, you know, that whole New Age movement, and, you know, oh, I'm in 5D and everything is so gaga googa in 5D. And
I was there, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I was there too for quite some time. But
Hmm.
it was my friends and colleagues that had studied with you that sort of shared their experience of the awarenesses that you offered them, and I was like, oh my gosh, geez, I never thought about that, right? And they did some of your tools and techniques, and it really ended up shifting and opening up, the Archangel Michael stuff, and all of those other kind of false ascension masters and
Hmm.
whatnot. Do you think that that's actually more of a challenge now for those that are expanding in consciousness, right, and contributing to elevating humanity, than it is for the unconscious people to awaken out of that main matrix that's controlling everything?
Yeah, because it's almost another layer. There's a generalized programming that all of
Mhm.
society has. And many people who are awareness seekers become aware of that, and they learn to kind of step out of that stuff and start to poke their
Mhm.
head above it all. And
Right.
that's when they started adding this other layer of the whole new age paradigm that
Mhm.
is designed to kind of magnetically snag you on all the things that you're looking for. Like you're
Mm.
looking to be more connected because you've been isolated. You're looking to be um, to connect into something more powerful, into more of your magic, and like it baits you on all the things that you're looking for, as if it's like what
Right.
you're waiting for, and it snags you and hooks you and sucks you in to keep
Mhm.
you unconscious, to keep it gets you into another amusement park to kind of tangle you up.
Yeah, and I think it's far more powerful because so
Ah,
many
yeah.
people think they are conscious, right? So
Hmm.
they're staying in that new age bliss,
Yep.
for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like you mentioned the term magnetic, right? And they ensnare you magnetically. Can you sort of talk a little bit more? Is it like actual magnets, or like define that?
The it's like, well, there's a lot of layers to it.
Mm.
There's the realities are set to lure you, and they've also installed or implanted programming in people to be lured by that. So
Right.
there's like what I call disguised memory implants there, and
Mm.
anyone who has like past life memories,
Hmm.
I suggest that you question whether those are authentic and how much of those are implanted,
Right. Yeah.
because they can implant memories that make you drawn towards anyone who's been in a love at first sight relationship, which I've
Mhm.
experienced. That's an implanted, that's a setup
True.
relationship, and it's like those magnetic components are put there to make you go, yeah, I want that. So it's a internal
Mhm.
and external, but not really magnetic. It just feels kind of that way.
Right. Okay. I see how you're using that term. So, what will it take for these people to, that are ensnared into that new age movement? What was it that woke you up and brought you out of it?
When it engages you with the puppies and rainbows and flowers and all the
Mhm.
let's all go hug and this will be
The
one big happy
light.
family, the
Yeah.
love and
Yeah.
the light, and
Hmm.
it's like they're all things that you want and should be available but clearly are
Hmm.
not or have not
Hmm.
been,
Hmm.
and it's like they lure you into this program, but once you're in it, once you
Right.
really fully buy into it and you're kind of really super tangled in it,
Hmm.
then you start to see this is not what it appears to be. So it's
Hmm.
it's kind of a journey, and I don't put the journey
Right.
down. Like I learned a
Right.
lot of stuff by
Absolutely.
buying into that, but
Hmm.
it's like for people who are ready to exit it once you're in it,
Right.
man, getting
Yeah.
out of it really sucks. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's like, well, how is that constructed? How is that built?
Hmm.
For
Hmm.
me, I just recognized it was, I started to get out of it out of just pure suffering. Like it was just a pure hell. The body symptoms, it disconnects you from the
Right.
body. So you have
Right.
bipolar symptoms, and you start to have all this
Mm.
strange, weird body
Mm.
stuff going on that's
Mhm.
directly related to how
Mm.
those manipulations are installed.
So you were suffering more profusely than you were
I,
before you jumped into it
oh
or were
yeah.
lured into it. And one day you're like, wait a minute. You asked some questions and had your own awareness that there's something completely false about where I'm at.
It
And
wasn't exactly I'd like to say it was just a one day I woke up.
mhm.
It actually took about 10 years for me to dig myself out. It's
Oh,
not been
wow.
it was not a
Right,
quick, like I was head
right,
over heels I was a teacher of the movement. I, I was out there
right.
professing, I'm selling the bullshit. Like,
Mhm, mhm,
that's how you learn.
mhm. Yeah. So would you say you became, I mean, obviously you became more conscious being in there because you evolved beyond it, but
Yeah.
did it end up contributing to you becoming more conscious than you were when you entered it? And I only
Oh,
ask that
absolutely.
because, yeah. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, I'd never engaged ascended masters and
Hmm.
energies from Orion, and like I was engaging alien energies from all over all that is, and
Hmm.
all these just weird energies and gods and
Hmm.
just all this stuff. And
Hmm.
it was fascinating and exciting until it wasn't anymore.
Right.
And in that way, it opened me up. I mean, all these things are like a double-edged sword that while there is interference, it's
Hmm.
also inviting you into a place of becoming more aware if you use it that way.
Hmm.
But like each one of these different energies and forces are actually seeking to trap you in their own thing for their own agenda.
Hmm.
But in that process, you become aware, okay, something's not right here, which causes you to become more aware and more aware and more
Right,
aware.
right, right, right. So a lot of people that I know that, still choose to be in that realm.
Mhm.
I guess I wouldn't say a lot, but I certainly am, connected to some people that are. They say that they feel so good. Oh, but I feel so good connecting with Metatron or,
Mhm.
whatever. And how would you explain that? Are they actually getting, it is a pseudo synthetic feel good experience, or is there an element of love with hooks, or how do you see that actually operating energetically?
Yeah, that one's not straightforward. There's a lot of different layers to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One of the things that you need to recognize that the interference that's on this planet recognizes where you're at vaguely. It
Absolutely.
doesn't know exactly what's going on, but it's
Mm.
vaguely, and it knows what your capacities and gifts are because you're a
Mhm.
threat. Your
Mhm.
awareness is a threat to dismantling the matrix.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's like they know what to be cautious of, and because of that they can invite you into things.
Right.
And a lot of it is they're inviting you to go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and once you're completely committed and you're in, then they don't have to stop giving you the love and light anymore. They don't have to keep giving you the juicy stuff. And all of a sudden it's like you're just one of our slaves now. Like it's not for
Hmm.
everybody, but you reach a point where it's not, the juiciness keeps going down and down and down and down and down and down. So I
Hmm.
actually tell people, it's like if you're in it and you're enjoying it, keep
Hmm.
going there, keep playing.
Right.
Like
Right.
don't play with me because I'm going to
Hmm.
show you how to get out of it. Um,
Hmm.
but it's like it's for those people who are done playing with that game and are looking
Right.
for a way to get out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they end up, having these like superpowers somehow that they get, by
It's the
connecting with.
illusion of superpowers.
So tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, well, some of it is that they're actually awakening your actual gifts and capacities.
Mm.
So
They're
some of it
actually
is,
doing that for you, hey?
well, no, they're not doing it, but they're inviting you in such a way that you're stepping into more of them.
Got
It's
it.
like this world says you're pathetic,
Hmm.
you can't do shit, like there's nothing special about it, you're a loser,
Hmm.
like just
Hmm.
get over it. And this other world, which is closer to the truth, says, you're a magical being and you have access to things and you're well connected and you're part of the co-creation of things, and all that is true. However, they want you to be a co-creator, to co-create for them, and they want
Hmm.
you to use your gifts to their advantage to create their agenda. So
Right.
it's like they are slowly and systematically inviting you into using your gifts for them. And
Hmm.
it actually down the road doesn't necessarily support you very much at all, if at all.
Right.
But
Right.
it does introduce you to the gifts on one hand. On another
Hmm.
hand,
Hmm.
there's a whole lot of synthetic,
Right.
like it takes you into this altered reality where you're not
Hmm.
really real on this planet. You're kind of partially on this planet, you're partially in this, it's almost like a fantasy reality, but it's technically
Hmm.
different,
Hmm.
where you think you're getting all these accolades and all this wonderful stuff's happening, but
Hmm.
it's none of it's actually real. It's a synthetic reality. So
Right.
some of it is authentic and some of it is not. And
Hmm.
some of it helps you to wake up to your gifts and some of it is not.
Right.
But you think
Hmm.
that you need them to do it. The truth is, you have all those gifts and capacities
Hmm.
naturally. You
Right.
don't need them. But
Right.
there's the tangle.
Mhm. Yeah, and I guess there, that tangle ends up probably occurring, at least with my experience, energetically too, because essentially they're siphoning your energy
Yeah.
to feed their
System.
matrix or
Yeah.
system, yeah, whatever you want to
Yeah.
end up calling it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, moving out of it can, certainly end up enabling you to receive more of who you truly be in that, direct
And
connection with
that's
your
how you
infinite nature.
know what's
Hmm.
going on. If their invitation is to take you out of the body. Don't focus on the body. The body
Hmm.
is this material plane that's like, it's a waste.
Right.
Focus on your your source essence, whatever. And
Hmm.
it disconnects you from your body, but
Hmm.
your body is part of what they're seeking to drain. So if you look at the
Absolutely.
energy levels in your body, that's a
Hmm.
huge indicator. It's like, what's happening to your physical body? They want
Exactly.
you to get in the space where they want you to leave your body and
Hmm.
enter a synthetic realm where your consciousness exits this body and goes synthetic,
Right.
and then you're kind of
Right.
trapped in this other realm, and it's a whole other game to get
Right.
out of that. But
Right.
like, the they want you to leave your body. That's the
Hmm.
game. And in
Hmm.
that, you're disconnecting and your body starts to break down. So
Hmm.
that's another thing. People are kind of in this high space of love and light, but their
Hmm.
body is like shit. And it's like,
Hmm.
what is
Hmm.
that? Well, it's connected.
Hmm. And it's interesting too, because if we leave our bodies, then where are we? We're out of our bodies. And then what ends up happening, other, beings, entities,
Move
and
in.
all that, yeah, sort of come into our body
Yep.
too. And often are, the creators of those diseases and
Yep.
pain and all of that sort of stuff, right?
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit more about the entities, demonics, creatures, aliens, exploiters interacting with humanity. And yeah, how is that received? I mean, it seems, you know, pretty unusual. Are there people that can hear you?
Well,
And
the people the people who are most attacked and messed with and like have reached the
right.
bottom and
Hmm.
see it, they know it. They're already hearing the voices. They know the stuff is in their body, and
Hmm.
they already get it. So for them, there's no convincing. They're just like, how do we get it out? Just
Right.
show me how
Right.
to get it out.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
other people who are still kind of in that transition, in that twilight space,
Hmm.
they're, for some reason, not for some reason, but for some of them, that's more challenging. A lot of it is the conditioning. We've been conditioned that anything going wrong is your fault, you're
Hmm.
responsible, it's your issue. And
Hmm.
technically, yeah, you've agreed to it, so you were manipulated into it, so
Hmm.
technically that's true. But what's actually going on behind there is all the weird feelings and sensations are not yours. They're other energies in your
Right.
body. And
Absolutely.
so for
Yeah.
people who are still a lot in the matrix, the conditioning
Hmm.
is, don't look there, it doesn't exist, like look
Hmm.
away. And it actually, there's hardcore programming in your consciousness that
Hmm.
filters out your
Hmm.
capacity to hear that. And we actually need to deprogram that first in order to
Right.
really
Right.
open up to what's true. And I'm not inviting people to open up to my truth. i'm
Hmm.
open I'm inviting people to open to their truth. I don't want
Right.
you to see the world as I do. I want you to see
Hmm.
what's true for you. And
Hmm.
you may have different games going on than I do, and so I'm always
Hmm.
open to how to
Right.
invite
Right.
that person into seeing what's true for them.
Yeah, and that could be, such a greater contribution to consciousness because everybody has, their own version
We're
of,
all different.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that could, create different realities here as well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
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 Awesome. Awesome. So, how do you know if you have these energies messing around in your life?
Okay. For some people, you actually hear voices. You actually know there's,
Mm-hmm.
at the extreme levels, you hear controlling voices that are telling you what to do.
Right.
So those people, they kind of get it already.
Mm-hmm.
For those people who aren't that far along or don't have
Mm-hmm.
that going on,
Mm-hmm.
um, if you have like just strange things in your life where you expect something, it's just naturally unfold this way, and all of a sudden you get blindsided by something, that's typically interference. And those surprises, things that should work normally that just keep going awry, that just keep going strange,
Mm-hmm.
that's interference. Another one that we've discovered actually at a core level is anywhere where you're putting yourself down or making yourself wrong,
Right.
that's a sign of interference. And the
Mm-hmm.
pattern there is, it's like we've been conditioned to look within and look for the problems in here, but we ignore interference. So as interference is all around us, messing in and altering in our reality, we're ignoring it. So we have nothing else to do but to go, oh, I screwed that one up. Oh, I'm so stupid. Oh, I can't believe I did that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I would say anytime you're putting yourself down, you
Mm-hmm.
are you are actually bumping into interference. So
Right.
that's probably the strongest indicator that I have for
Right.
people. If
So
you
what
don't
about, yeah, go ahead.
if you don't put yourself down and you just kind of have a happy life, you're all good. No action necessary. If you find
Mm-hmm.
yourself putting yourself down, making yourself wrong a lot, you've got a lot of interference likely causing that.
Right. And what about, those of us who have experienced, negative treatment with our parents and our family of origin? So many people in this reality attribute a person's negative thinking to that, right? What happened in childhood, as opposed to, interferences that are messing
And
with you.
in a way, it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of true. It's
Mm-hmm.
like it, those experiences are, if you go back to them, you're like, okay, so here's loving mom going along, and then all of a sudden loving mom turns into something really evil and alien and nasty and does something bizarre in your reality,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
turns back to loving mom, and you're like, what was that? So
Mm-hmm.
it's like,
Mm-hmm.
what if those situations aren't natural loving mom or dad
Right.
or
Mm-hmm.
relatives? What if that's
Mm-hmm.
actually interference taking over those people
Mm-hmm.
and creating that situation and then leaving? And
Mm-hmm.
as you open up to looking at this from another perspective, you start to, the stuff from the past starts to make more sense. It's like, oh, that's
Right.
what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. When I had that awareness, I was like, oh, okay, well, now, you know, I get it. And, had a very challenging experience with my mom. And even as an adult, there was so much, conflict and arguing going on. And then when I realized, oh, I'm being manipulated to act and react to her,
Yeah.
assaults energetically or whatever,
Yeah.
right? And the beings that siphon energy off of us are totally having a field day because they're seeing
Mhm.
this argument and all this energy and whatnot. It was a very profound moment for me where I stepped out
Saw
of
it.
it and
Yeah.
was neutral, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, I
Yep.
think that so much of insane human behaviors, right, are probably initiated by interferences,
Yeah.
right?
Totally.
Yeah, yeah,
Totally.
the tragic things that end up happening. So, why do you encourage people to pay attention to these negative energies? Isn't it better just to ignore them?
Yeah, that's actually the common thinking about it is if you
Hmm.
ignore them, they go away. The truth
Right.
is, if you ignore them, they don't go away. They move in more.
Hmm.
So actually, the other component is what I've found is the answer to all of it. The way out of all of it is to become aware. And what the matrix of this reality wants you to do is remain unaware.
Hmm.
So the process of being open to and actually deliberately focusing on becoming aware of seeing all the things that you don't want to see is, chances are, not you that doesn't want to see them, it's the matrix that programmed you to not want to see them. And
Mm.
once you see them, it's like you're a victim or you're powerless only because you can't see the dynamics of what's really and truly going on.
Mhm.
Once you allow yourself to see what's really going on, it's like, oh, this person that I called a friend is actually taken over by an alien or taken over by a program from the Matrix. And it's like,
Mhm.
I have this person as a friend. Why? I'm taking their crap in my life. Why? Like, you
Right.
start to see really what's going on, and then you can take different actions.
Mhm.
So for me, the solution to all of it is awareness.
Right, right, right. So moving into, and through the unconsciousness of this reality, is that an easy experience?
No.
Yeah.
No.
So
But
tell us about that.
it's like it's not about easy.
Mhm.
It's about you're wired to go there. Like it's your
Mm.
there's an inner drive that I call them awareness seekers, that awareness seekers have
Right.
to
Mm.
figure out, like, what is that? Like they want to understand and take things apart, and they want to see what's going on underneath. Why is that doing what it's doing, and what is that strange thing? They like the strange things. And it's like we're conditioned to not look there. And the strange things invite you into your capacities and your gifts and stepping into more of who you are. Because when you see that you're being attacked or manipulated, and you get it clearly, you'll start to ramp up your capacities. You'll start to bring gifts online. You'll start to do things differently, and
Mhm.
you'll start to become more of a powerful and more aware person. So it's like
Mhm.
that whole process keeps looping back to becoming
But
more
it's
aware.
really not up for everybody to realize well, I mean, there's got to be some element of strength and tenacity, because in my own personal experience, it's just like, okay, I'm stepping into this realm for freedom and truth and
Yep.
liberation, but it's like insane. I'm getting
Yeah.
pummeled more than I ever did energetically. I
Right.
can't sleep through the night. I'm getting attacked at night. I'm, having terrible dreams that are, infiltrations. And
So
I have some friends that have like totally stepped out of it and just said, forget this noise. I'm going to be in the love movement.
right. And what's interesting is that will work for them to a certain point. Like,
Hmm.
once you have a certain awareness, you can't forget what you've seen. So
Right.
it depends on how much you have seen.
Hmm.
You can kind of sort of go to sleep and numb out. But what
Hmm.
happens is that if you can numb out your inner drive to become more of you, then
Right.
you're fine, because you won't care, and that's fine. But
Hmm.
once that inner drive to become more of you is open, you don't really have a choice. And I did my best to go back to sleep when I recognized it's like, oh man, this is way too much stuff. And
Totally.
it's
Yep.
like, what I found is that the torture isn't whether I'm choosing to become aware or not, doesn't reduce or increase the torture. Like,
Ah, okay.
once I've gone a certain distance,
Hmm.
there's going to be a certain amount of attack that's there, kind of regardless, and they're
Right.
going to wear me down until I
Hmm.
choose to exit this reality because it just sucks so bad
Hmm. Hmm.
that they want you out. Like,
Hmm.
okay, so if you're okay with that, then okay, fine. But it's
Hmm.
almost like, what if it's about, what if the purpose of this life isn't to stay asleep, but it's to step into the truth and magnitude and potency and capacities of who you are? What if
Hmm.
that's the whole game here? What if all these illusions are simply about inviting you into becoming more of who you are? And
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
if you choose to go to sleep, that's cool. I'm
Hmm.
no judgment against it. But it's
Yeah.
like, for those who have chosen to wake up, the only
Hmm.
way that I know out is to keep becoming more and more aware. You
Hmm.
can actually become aware enough that you eliminate the attacks. Like, they can't attack you. My reality is quieter. I have
Right.
less attacks, or
Hmm.
I'll have periods where I have no attacks, because
Hmm.
I've figured out all the different ways they've attacked, and I've shut
Right.
those down, and I've cleared, and I've
Right.
vanished. You
Hmm.
actually get to a more quiet, peaceful reality. You then
Absolutely.
start to move into a bigger world that's
Mhm.
not necessarily as quiet and peaceful. And how do we
Hmm.
change that? So
Hmm.
that's
Mhm.
been once I master my reality, it's
Mhm.
like, how
Mhm.
do we change the bigger reality? And that's where inviting other people to become more aware seems to be the
Right.
key.
Seems to do it. Hey. So with everything that's going on right now with the, the coronavirus pandemic and, outright tyranny and control of the human
Hmm.
population, that's obviously, a force that's inspiring, the controllers to go ahead and, yeah, overtake humanity into their own agenda. Have you been sensing that there's more interference that's also working at play with the controller agenda on Earth, or?
Well, they've played their big cards,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
they've really up leveled in a lot of ways. But they made, my interesting point of view, they made a really
mhm.
bad mistake by having people stay at home and not do business as usual, not do work. So you've got millions of people who've had months to start becoming aware,
Right.
and they've started to figure it out, and they're like, oh, we better get people working again.
Mm,
Because they're becoming aware of what's going on, and that actually is going to work against them in a very dramatic way. um,
mhm.
I actually I don't feel negativity for what's gone on from day
Mm,
one. I've felt like
right,
this is weird stuff, but there's something really positive about the other side of it. I couldn't
right.
figure out what it was until I started to see what was happening with people who were
Mm,
in seclusion and on their own and not working and not in their normal patterns. They're
right.
taking in new media, new awareness, they're untangling their reality, they're becoming more
Mhm,
aware.
mhm.
Wow, like the whole planet's becoming more aware simultaneously. That's profound,
Right,
and that's kind of the way I
right,
see it. But there are other
right.
players who've joined um, the feast, if you will, and have
Mhm,
different agendas recently with the riots and stuff. There's all these other players that have come in, and you can feel a different frequency of things at play now. Um,
mhm,
and again, it's just every things are going to play how they're going to play. But how
mhm.
can we become more aware of it, and how can we change that?
Right. So once people end up becoming aware of these energies in their life, how can they end up changing these energies? Is awareness just going to go ahead and do it, or do they need to learn psychic self-defense, or?
Awareness actually ultimately is the solution to all of it. The things that I don't know, I just keep connecting with the universe and asking questions and downloading more information, and
Mhm,
we all can have the capacity to do that. And it's like you just keep asking different questions and looking at things in different ways, and you
right.
start to perceive, oh, that's not what I thought it was at all, and it's this over here. And once you're aware of what the this over here is, you'll intuitively know how to handle that. Now
Hmm.
the concept is that your natural, what if you already have, another difference in between the old healing paradigm and the paradigm that I
Mhm,
recommend is, the
mhm.
old healing paradigm is that you're broken, you're damaged, life has trashed you, and you need to bring in more of you. You need to go get light from the Palladians, and you need to download the golden light, and you blah 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 blah. And it's like all those interferences. I have the opposite point of view, that you came here
Mm,
with all the gifts and capacities that you already require. And this reality piled, the matrix piled crap on you. And
mhm.
it's the crap, the programming, the conditioning, the points of view that have been kind of impacted, that you
Right,
need to clear. And once you clear that stuff, your naturalness just comes out. You
right.
have it already. Or what if you
Mhm,
have it already?
mhm,
And so a lot of the awareness, like, there's nothing to get, you've got it. So
mhm,
awareness is seeing what's really going on, and then you'll call out the resources.
mhm,
And you don't necessarily need somebody to show you that. It will
mhm,
happen over time. But
mm,
it's like, if somebody can show you the games and the players and
mhm.
the shortcuts that hundreds of other people have found about what's going on, you can do it
Mhm.
faster. So that's what
Right.
I'm about, is accelerating
Mhm,
awareness. Like, on
mhm.
your own, you'll become aware if you have an intention to do that.
Absolutely. You did mention, though, that there's an element of clearing that needs to end up occurring before you can get to that place of realizing the extent of your awareness and then being able to communicate with the universe just through question. How long does that usually last? Is it different for everybody? Does it depend on how dedicated you are or how wounded you are or what?
I don't have a black and white on that. I can tell you it's
Hmm.
going a lot faster. What used to take years,
Right.
the most recent group that I took, I usually take in one group a year and I'll
Mhm.
work with them all the way through. Um,
Right.
they're in less than a year, they've gotten to some just way beyond anything we've ever gotten to before. So
Mm.
there is an acceleration of awareness that's naturally occurring as more of us become aware. It invites
Mhm.
others to become aware. As
Mhm.
we perceive things, it kind of goes into the field, and then everybody slowly starts to perceive more of that. So I
Right. So it's
think
kind of like the 100th monkey effect is what you're saying? Or
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Right. So do you think that us awareness seekers come to Earth to actually clear this density and this matrix and hold the space for humanity to become more aware itself? Or was it
Yes,
just a random
that's
choice we decided to make and, oh, I'm going to go to Earth and
no, I
play down
think
there?
that this is like the hottest project in all the multiverse, and
Mm.
any like there's a buzz about this. There's something happening here that's never happened before, has never unfolded in this magnitude, and
Right.
there's possibilities available here that are so staggering and so outside of anything that
Mm.
any infinite being has ever seen before. It's like
Right.
that is the party to go to. Now, once you get here, it's not a party anymore. It's like, oh, what's going on? But as you,
Exactly.
but the what it invites you, the gravity of what it invites you into becoming aware of, is so
Right.
profound,
Mhm.
that once you can get past the matrix stuff, you're
Mhm.
like, wow. Like the
Mhm.
what I noticed is that when I was unconscious, nothing about this world made sense. Everywhere I looked, there was stuff. It's just like,
Right.
that's really
Right.
bizarre. Why do
Mhm.
why do our leaders behave that way?
Mhm.
Why do corporations do things that are so destructive? Why, like all this, like everywhere you look, there's all these, like, this doesn't make sense.
Right.
As you become more aware and you
Mhm.
see things as they actually are, all of it starts to make sense. You see exactly why agribusiness does what agribusiness does, and you
Mhm.
start to see the solutions to it. You see all of the things start to make sense. That's the thing
Mhm.
that on some level has driven me, is this
Mhm.
desire to, like, God, what is going on? And awareness does that for me. Like, you start
Mhm.
to see through and under, and you see the mechanics and the hidden forces. You're like, oh, that's what's going on.
Right. Right. Wow. Profound. So, how do these exploiters focus so much on people? Pardon me. Why do these exploiters focus so much on people who are becoming aware? Because it's.
My point of view about that is the only threat that they have, the
Mhm.
only thing that can stop the matrix from taking over. Like, we all get a sense by now, like 15 years ago, if you talk about the matrix, people are like, I don't understand, this is such a beautiful world. And
Mhm.
now it's pretty obvious. You look around, you're like, oh, this is not headed somewhere good. Like,
Mm.
it's
Mm.
pretty hard to not be aware that there's something really funky going on here. So at this point, when you look at it, it's like, okay, what do we do about that? And I completely dropped your question. Can you bring that question back in again?
Well, why is it that they end up
Yeah.
exploiting people who are, yeah.
So it's like, for me, the whole process is about becoming more aware. And the
Mhm.
only people who can stop the matrix are the aware people. Like the people who
Right.
are programs, the people who, like, just do what they're told. They're not in a position, they don't have necessarily the access or capacity to stop it.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
the people who are do have the capacity to be aware are the only threat to the matrix. So of course the
Mhm.
matrix would focus on attacking, keeping those people down, because the rest of the people aren't an issue. They're already handled by the general programming of the
Mhm.
population.
Right. Yeah. And there's this. unwillingness that people have of becoming aware too, because if they actually ended up becoming aware of all of it, they would, well, some probably would have like mental breakdowns really when you take a look at everything there is to become aware of, don't you
That's
think?
the illusion of it. But it's like, how
Okay.
much is it that
Mm-hmm.
you're or those people are afraid
Mm-hmm.
of becoming aware? How
Mm-hmm.
much is it the interference in your reality that's in your body and
Right.
around your space is
Mm-hmm.
afraid of you becoming aware?
Right.
And
Right.
that's typically what's going on. It's the
Mm-hmm.
energies in your body and in your space that are radiating this fear of you becoming aware of them, but you think it's you. So it's a mind fuck at so many
Mm-hmm.
levels.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you talk about asking questions of the universe or asking questions to gather awareness. How does that work exactly? Do you hear answers, and how do you know if whatever it is that you hear is actually true and not false when
Yeah.
manipulators are everywhere doing everything?
Yeah. I actually tell people, anything you hear, ignore it. Because what's fascinating is when you're downloading awareness, to me,
Mm-hmm.
my experience of my communication with the authentic universe is on an energetic level, and it happens through my body. And my mind and my being is almost the last to know about it. My mind is definitely the last to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
The So what happens is I'm asking the universe, and I'm just perceiving this energy moving in my body. That's the receipt of encoded information that then
Mm-hmm.
my body is going to digest. And over the hours and days after that, I just
Mm-hmm.
start to know things. It reminds me a lot of the Matrix movie where Trinity's like, I need to learn how to fly a helicopter. And they download that program, she twitches a bit, and she's like, okay, let's go. And she gets it. It's not far from that, except for it's not that
Mm.
fast. And
Right.
it's not a mental thing. So often what I suggest to people is when you are receiving from the universe, interference doesn't want you to do that. And so
Mm-hmm.
they're noisy. They'll distract you with thoughts, they'll distract you with voices, they'll distract you with images. So I would say anything that you see,
Mm-hmm.
hear, any thoughts that you have, set them aside, go thank you very
Mm-hmm.
much, and just keep focusing on your body and the energy movements in your body. There's a purity about that that
Mm-hmm.
is difficult to uh, mess with because they
Mm-hmm.
can't perceive it. Interference
Mm-hmm.
has no clue what you're doing, but they want you
Right.
to keep being distracted. They do get that you're receiving something, and they don't want that.
Mm-hmm. Right. So your body then, is it a remembering and a recovery of your body's awareness, or how does it actually end up showing up in your body as knowing and awareness?
Um, what it feels like to me is what I'm getting is a
Mm-hmm.
compressed, like encrypted, if you will. It's like in my language, it's from my viewpoint as an infinite being.
Mm-hmm.
And when I receive it, it like, it's like when you listen to another person talk, you got to take their world and you got to kind of rotate it around to fit in your reality and kind of see what they see through your eyes, but you got to manipulate their world to see it as they see it. You got to stand in their shoes, if as it were. The universe gives you that information in your
Okay.
shoes already, so it comes encoded for your perspective as you see the world. So it
Mm-hmm.
starts to give you the pieces that are like the next stepping stones to where you're seeking to go. And
Mm-hmm.
often the glitch that people have when they first start doing it is they think, I'm going here. Yeah, but the big blocks and the stepping stones are over here. So you receive, and then you just start to get awareness about something cool over here. You're like, yeah, but I'm trying to go over here. Yeah, well, that's going to loop around and it's going to take you over there. So
Right.
a lot of it is there's a certain trust in the process,
Uh-huh.
but it's just receiving, and the universe will give, the authentic universe, if you're receiving
Mm-hmm.
from the authentic universe, will give it
Mm-hmm.
to you in the way that you most need to receive it.
Right. So is it a when we're receiving it, is it a feeling sense? It is
It's
it
Everybody has it a little differently. I
got it.
suggest people just notice an energy moving in their body.
Mm-hmm.
It's always a
Mm-hmm.
focus on your body. If you're in
Mhm.
your mind, or you're looking at some vision, or you're hearing some voice,
Mhm.
you're not in your body focused. Just, it's like being radically in your body and just noticing what's shifting in your body.
Right.
That's your evidence that you're receiving that download.
Awesome. Awesome. So you mentioned authentic universe and inauthentic universe. What is that? Is inauthentic universe artificial intelligence based universe, or something different, or a combo of both?
There
Tell
are
us the difference.
lots of different universes. There are lots of
Hmm.
different planets. There
Hmm.
are
Hmm.
simulated realities. There are virtual realities. There's many illusions and distortions here.
Absolutely.
But there's one authentic planet that when you connect to it, I call it the authentic biotic or biological, the
Hmm.
green planet, that when you connect to it, you're like, oh yeah. Like
Hmm.
when you go out in nature and you're out in the trees or in the forest and you're just like, wow, you're in a world that's there to nurture and support you. That's
Right.
the authentic one. The
Hmm.
synthetic ones feel, they look like this reality to some degree, but they're flat, they're two-dimensional, they have no
Mm.
depth to them, and they certainly aren't there to nurture you. Like you engage a tree, you try to talk to a tree, or you try to energetically communicate or commune with a tree, and there's just nothing there. It's just empty tree. It's like,
Right.
wow, what is that? That's another reality. That's a whole
Mm.
complete different set of distortions to,
Hmm.
you've
Hmm.
already been invited out of the real reality that supports you into a
Hmm.
synthetic reality that pretends to support you, but it's actually an entrapment.
So are they interwoven into each other? Could you be walking in an organic universe and
Yeah.
receiving all the energy of the earth, and then there could be artificial trees,
Yeah,
right? So
it's it's complex, but I try to look
mhm,
at it as like, what percent am I in an authentic universe? And
right.
my objective is, how can I get fully and completely into an authentic universe?
Hmm.
That,
So
like,
this
all the
go
rest
ahead.
is just distortion. How can I get out of the distortion? How can I clear
Hmm.
that and get completely into an authentic one?
Right. So there's an element of clearing that's required in regards to getting out of the distortion, or is it you bringing more of your infinite self into your body,
It's,
or a
well,
combination of
your
both,
infinite
or
self is kind of, it depends. Everybody's in a different place, so I don't have a
right,
pat answer for that. But
right.
uh, it, in many cases, it, like if you want just a brute force way of doing it, you just keep connecting with nature, and brute force, you'll start to vibrate at a natural reality. And in my worst days, I would just go out and walk in nature because I had no clue what else to do, and I would leave nature feeling better until I got out of it, and it was like, eh. But the more you kind of connect with nature, the more you're in the truth of you and the truth of your body, and the more connected you are to the body. And then it's, once you become aware, it's like, well, okay, so what is everything that lures, hooks, binds, attaches me into synthetic realities? And then we're just going to clear that. And it's just,
Mm,
it's,
right.
some of it is just a choice. Clearing is a process.
Mhm.
Honestly, it's just a choice, and unchoosing the other choices you've made.
Right, right. So, in authentic and authentic experiences, what is the difference, or how do synthetic implanted mind systems end up interweaving into that? I know that's one of your awarenesses and one of your um, processes that you bring your students and colleagues through.
Yeah, so to recognize that your mind, the hard one, that people trust their mind. They think of their mind as, it's my mind, I created it,
Mhm.
these are my thoughts. But
Right.
when you actually go back in the history of it, it's like, who told you that the color red was red? Who told you that Santa Claus was real? who
Mhm.
who 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 programmed your thoughts? Who told you what those words meant? Who told you what was important and what was not important? Well, when you're young, everything was given to you by your parents, who they got from the school system, who you then get from the school system. Like, your realities, your mind has been conditioned, and it's been conditioned into a synthetic way of thinking that actually limits you from being your infinite being.
Mm.
And so, depending on what your natural capacities are with mind, you could actually be hardwired into the matrix not everybody is, but some people can be. There's a lot of different distortions, but there's these different ways that you can be entrapped in your mind. If you're a very mental person,
Mm-hmm.
chances are the matrix has worked to trap you in mental constructs, and there's all kinds of interesting things going on there, and those get more sophisticated to explain. But
Right, right. So you mentioned also polarity-based viewpoints and attachment to those. Can you define what that is and how we can get out of it?
yeah, so this reality needs you to actually pick a side. Like everything is, well, I need you've got to be pro Trump or against Trump. You've got to be for the unification of Europe, or you have to be for the independent states or the independent countries of Europe. Like there's all these manipulations that are constantly inviting you to pick a side. And those choices they're not just a choice, it's a polarity. The choices are magnetized in such a way that it's like they're not just I'm holding lightly onto a thought, I'm holding onto the thought violently, like this is my truth and nobody's going to take this away from me.
Right.
When as an infinite being, what if you don't actually have any fixed points of view? Like people who when you're in a clear space, you don't really have attachments to things. And when you do when you do get into those attachments, it's like a kind of space. You can't see the truth of who you be and clarity of your everything from a space of being clenched and holding on to these magnetized points of view that governments and education and the media constantly bombarding you with. You've got to be, pro this or against that. And
Mm-hmm.
it wants you to get in polarity because it tangles your mind and you're not present to what's really true.
Right, right. Yeah, it's almost like the media is its own implanted synthetic mind system.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
guess it is.
Yeah.
So you've got a huge course and information gift that's available for our viewers. Can you tell us why you're being so generous with all your information?
Yeah, well, actually, it's interesting. People look at it and they're like, wow, you're giving away so much. And I'm looking at it different. I'm like, well, in order to get from where you are now to aware, you need to, from my perspective, you need to see all these things. Then you can outcreate all the common interferences that
Right.
most aware people are being.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the Matrix uses the same patterns on most people on this planet. And we've cataloged and figured out how to get out of those patterns. Once you become aware of that, you can just step out of those patterns. So I'm looking at where you are and where most people are now and what it takes for them to get to a space where they see all this stuff and can be outside of it. And
Mm-hmm.
there's so much. So it's like, how do I speed this up? So a lot of it for me is what can I give away that would allow people to very quickly become more aware that I can give them the more advanced stuff. Like, so what I'm giving away is what I consider basic stuff, but it's far from basic. But
Yeah, just wait till you step into your
yeah,
realms.
yeah. So it's a lot of it is just how can I get people from where they are now to a space of awareness and what do they need to perceive. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to give them a good starter to,
Right.
even if you don't want to take my courses, and that's totally cool. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, how can you get enough basis where you see the core illusions of this reality and you can
Right.
begin to use your natural capacities to
Mm.
just start to step out of it.
Right. Beautiful. Awesome. So is there any other questions or awareness you want to share with our guests and viewers today before we conclude?
I think that the only thing that I have is that I invite you to become
Mm.
to ignore the voices that keep telling you that you should be afraid of being aware. Fear is a conditioned response. It's like ditch the fear and start connecting to your natural curiosity and
Mm.
look for the place in this world where you are powerful, you are potent, you are magical. Like we see these scenarios of these superheroes. What if you are a superhero? Like, how can you step into your superhero capacities, step into your magic? And that's what all of the programs that I have, I'm looking to
Mhm.
have you step into your magic, your capacities, so that you can awaken other people. Like, that to
Mhm.
me is the way this is going to happen. It's like, how can we support each other in our own way using our own gifts and capacities, and what
Mhm.
can we change here that's going to make this a better place to be?
Beautiful, wonderful. Yeah, your work is definitely evolutionary and revolutionary, and I really appreciate your awareness.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you so much.